Hello and welcome to part 3 of our mini-series on meal prep tips and guidelines, health, safety and storage. Would you be able to say what's the best way to properly store your cooked food? We'll answer that in just a moment. A very important aspect of meal prepping is that the food you prepare should always be consumed within 2 days or 3 days tops. I can hear you saying, but isn't the point of meal prepping to make food in advance for a week or even more? Well, unless you really enjoy gambling with your own health, and trust me, some people really like that kind of thrill, you should never keep prepared food for that long in the refrigerator. As simple as that. Pretty much every respectable health and food safety organization in the world agrees on this, and state that leftovers, which is what meal prepared in advance really are, leftovers, should be consumed within 48 hours after preparing and never be reheated more than once. There are exceptions to the rule, obviously. Rice, for example, is considered a low-risk item due to the low levels of protein contained in it. This is because, although they can grow in just about any food, bacteria are particularly fond of protein-rich ingredients. Interestingly, the kinds of bacteria that are more likely to give you food poisoning are exactly those that thrive in protein-rich environments, rather than the type that thrive on starch and sugars. For this reason, plant-based foods are generally considered safer than animal food, but they are obviously not risk-free. Remember that regardless of the food you are trying to preserve, the longer you keep it in the fridge, the more you risk giving yourself food poisoning of some form. The so-called danger zone, the temperature range in which food-borne bacteria can grow, is between 4 and 60 degrees Celsius, or 39 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which is why it is mandatory to keep your food either below 4 degrees Celsius, or 39 degrees Fahrenheit, or above 60 degrees Celsius, or 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Or to make it even simpler, to keep cold food cold and hot food hot. In regard to refrigerating your food, the most common cause of foodborne illness is in fact improper cooling of cooked food. Since bacteria are literally everywhere, cooked food should always be placed in shallow containers for quick cooling and refrigerated as soon as possible, to prevent the bacteria from getting back into your food and reproducing. If you want to know more on the topic, there are some interesting links in the description below the video. Also, upon inspecting a specific food, remember that you should never use it if it's discolored, moldy, or has an off smell. You should also not consume products that spurt liquid or foam when the container is opened, and most important of all, you should never ever taste the product to determine its safety. I know, we all do that at some point, but we shouldn't, okay? If I really had to prepare a whole week's worth of food in advance, then freezing it would be my best bet for both preserving the flavors and to prevent food poisoning. Although freezing does affect the consistency of some ingredients, it is a much safer option than refrigerating, especially since your own health is at stake. Reheating frozen food is virtually as easy as reheating refrigerated food, so in that regard it doesn't really make much of a difference. But how can you tell if a food will freeze well or not? A good rule of thumb is to have a look at the frozen food aisle of a supermarket. Whatever food you see in there will most likely freeze beautifully at home as well. This is an easy trick that within seconds will give you a better understanding about what foods you can efficiently cook and freeze in the comfort of your home, without impacting too much on flavor and consistency. Besides, those frozen food packages have instructions too. So there you go, you now have instructions as well on how to reheat the food you made. No effort whatsoever. According to the USDA, hot food can be placed directly in the refrigerator, as the thermostat will keep running to maintain a safe temperature of 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 degrees Celsius. I find this statement to be acceptable in relation to professional environments, but I can hardly see how it applies to the average fridge that most of us own. For this reason, unless you are sure that your fridge is a food-chilling beast, I do recommend against placing hot food in it, as it would increase the internal temperature of the whole thing and potentially lead to a quicker food spoilage. An interesting fact, have you ever wondered what the coolest part of a fridge is for quick cooling? There are two answers to this. The first answer is the back. The reason for this is that the biggest source of heat in the fridge is usually the warm air you let in every time you open the door. And since the back of the fridge is further away from the door, it tends to stay cooler. The second answer is the bottom shelves. This is because cold air sinks and collects at the bottom of the fridge. Although you should know that if your fridge has an ice-making compartment on top, then the rule is the opposite and the top shelves are the coldest. This is pretty much all there is to it, and if all went according to plans, by now you should be some sort of meal preparation guru. I'm confident that with this general information, you'll be able to create some seriously delicious and nutritious food that is safe to store, travels well, and can be consumed for as long as possible without being in any way dangerous to your health. I seriously hope that this series will help not only all the people who are into cooking food in advance, but also all of those who, for one reason or another, keep sharing meal prep videos without having a clue about how food preparation and storage really work, potentially putting at serious risk inexperienced cooks and young viewers. If you enjoyed this series and you know someone who would benefit from watching it, please do share it and we will be forever grateful for that. As you probably already know, we are all about supporting young talented artists whenever we can. The illustrations for this mini-series were provided by Kesh, a talented fellow YouTuber who kindly decided to help us with this. We absolutely love his work, and for that we strongly recommend you to go check his channel out, as it is not only very inspiring, but also quite unique. I'll leave his social media links in the description below the video. We hope you enjoyed part 3 of this mini-series on meal prepping, and if you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up before moving on, and subscribe if you haven't already. Happy cooking to all of you, and thank you very much for watching.